Dr. Lisa Rodriguez had always been the type of person who needed proof for everything. Working at the Space Research Center in Chile for over 10 years, she had seen thousands of reports about strange lights in the sky and weird signals from outer space. Every single time, there was always a simple explanation. Weather balloons, airplane lights, or just equipment problems. That's why when people called her office talking about UFOs, she would just smile and file their reports away. She wasn't being mean about it. She just believed in science, not stories. If aliens were real, where was the evidence? Where were the clear photos? Where were the reliable witnesses? But everything changed on that cold March night in 2023. Lisa was working alone at the observatory, which wasn't unusual for her. She actually preferred the quiet night shifts. No phone calls, no meetings, just her and the giant telescopes scanning the dark sky above. The mountains around the facility looked beautiful under the starlight, and she often felt lucky to have such an amazing job. She was checking some routine readings when something very strange happened. All her computer screens started flashing, red warning lights at the same time. The radio equipment began making loud buzzing sounds. Even the coffee machine in the corner started acting up, turning on and off by itself. "What in the world?" Lisa muttered, rushing from one machine to another, trying to figure out what was going wrong. The energy readings on her main screen were showing impossible numbers. It was like something incredibly powerful was nearby, but that didn't make any sense. The nearest city was hundreds of miles away, and there were no power plants or military bases in the area. Lisa grabbed her jacket and stepped outside to check if maybe a storm was coming. Sometimes lightning could mess with the equipment. But when she looked up at the sky, her mouth fell open in shock. The stars were disappearing, not all at once, but slowly, like someone was covering them with a giant blanket. She had been looking at stars her whole career, and she had never seen anything like this. Stars don't just vanish. They can't just turn off. She ran back inside to grab her binoculars, her heart beating fast. When she came back out and looked, through them, she saw something that made her legs feel weak. There was something huge floating in the sky above the mountains. It wasn't a plane or a helicopter. It wasn't like anything she had ever seen before. The object was shaped like a crystal, but it was the size of several city blocks. It was glowing with a soft, blue-white light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Lisa rubbed her eyes, thinking maybe she was just tired from working too many long shifts. But when she looked again, the thing was still there. In fact, it seemed to be getting closer. She fumbled for her phone to take a picture, but her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. When she finally managed to hold it steady and point it at the sky, the camera screen just showed static. She tried again and again, but the phone wouldn't work properly. The crystal ship, because that's what it had to be, was now close enough that Lisa could see details on its surface. It wasn't smooth like she expected. Instead, it looked almost alive, with patterns of light flowing across it like veins. The whole thing was completely silent. No engine noise, no wind, nothing. Lisa knew she should run inside and call someone. Her boss, the police, the military, somebody. But she couldn't move. It wasn't that she was frozen with fear, exactly. It was more like she was hypnotized by the beauty of what she was seeing. As she watched, a section of the bottom of the craft began to glow brighter. Then a beam of soft light came down from it, like a gentle spotlight. The light moved across the ground, seeming to search for something. Lisa's scientific mind was racing. She was probably the first person on Earth to see real proof that we weren't alone in the universe. This was the discovery of a lifetime. This would change everything humanity thought it knew about space and life beyond our planet. But then the light beam found her. The moment the light touched her, Lisa felt the strangest sensation. It was warm and peaceful, like being wrapped in the coziest blanket on a winter day. All her fear melted away, replaced by curiosity and wonder. She could hear something in her mind. Not words exactly, but feelings and images. She sensed that whoever was controlling this craft wasn't trying to hurt her. They seemed almost nervous, like they were as surprised to find her as she was to see them. The light began to lift her gently off the ground. Lisa knew she should be terrified, but instead she felt calm. As she rose toward the crystal ship, she had one last clear thought before everything went dark. This was either the most important moment in human history, or she was having the weirdest dream of her life. The last thing she remembered was the soft humming sound the ship made as it closed around her, and the feeling that she was about to discover secrets that would change not just her life, but the future of everyone on Earth. When Lisa woke up, she would be in a place unlike anything any human had ever seen before, face to face with beings who had traveled across the galaxy carrying both incredible knowledge and a desperate plea for help. Lisa's eyes opened slowly, and for a moment she thought she was still dreaming. The ceiling above her wasn't like any ceiling she had ever seen. It was moving, pulsing gently with waves of soft light that reminded her of watching ocean waves at night. The light wasn't harsh like electric bulbs. Instead, it felt warm and alive, like sunlight filtering through water. She sat up carefully, expecting to feel dizzy or sick, but surprisingly, she felt perfectly fine. Better than fine, actually. She felt more awake and alert than she had in years. The air around her was different, too. It was thicker than normal air, but not in a bad way. When she breathed, it felt like drinking cool water on a hot day. Looking around, Lisa realized she was in the most beautiful room she had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that glowed from within. Tiny particles floated in the air, sparkling like the most expensive glitter, but these moved with purpose, swirling in gentle patterns around her. She wasn't alone. All around the massive room, tall figures moved gracefully through the space. At first glance, Lisa thought they might be wearing some kind of special suits, but as her eyes adjusted to the strange light, she realized that what she was seeing was actually their skin. These beings were nothing like the little gray aliens she had seen in movies. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, and elegant in a way that reminded her of dancers. Their skin was almost see-through, like looking through frosted glass, and underneath she could see what looked like a network of glowing rivers flowing through their bodies. Their eyes were the most striking feature. They were large and seemed to have many different layers, like looking into a kaleidoscope. When one of them looked at her, Lisa felt a strange tingling in her mind, as if someone was gently knocking on a door in her thoughts. She tried to stand up and was surprised to find that her legs worked perfectly. Whatever had happened to her during the trip to this place, she hadn't been hurt. In fact, she felt stronger than usual. One of the beings approached her, moving with fluid steps that barely seemed to touch the ground. As it got closer, Lisa noticed that its movements created small ripples of light in the air around it, like dropping a stone in a calm pond. Then something incredible happened. Without the being opening its mouth or making any sound, Lisa heard a voice in her mind. But it wasn't scary or invasive. It felt like remembering something she had forgotten, warm and familiar. "Please do not be afraid," the voice said inside her thoughts. "We mean no harm to you or your people." Lisa opened her mouth to speak, but found she didn't need to. Somehow she could think her response and the being would understand. "Where am I?" she thought back. Images flooded her mind, but gently, like watching a movie that someone was describing to her. She saw the inside of the crystal ship, vast chambers connected by corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. She saw gardens where impossible plants grew in spiral patterns, their leaves shimmering with the same light that flowed through the beings' bodies. "You are aboard our vessel," the voice explained. "We have traveled very far to reach your world." More images came. Lisa saw star maps that meant nothing to her, but somehow she understood they represented distances so vast that Earth's best rockets would take millions of years to cover them. She saw other worlds, some beautiful beyond description, others dark and lifeless. "Why?" Lisa asked with her thoughts. "Why did you come here? Why did you take me?" The being's large eyes seemed to grow sad, though Lisa wasn't sure how she could tell. The emotions she was feeling through their connection became heavy with sorrow and something that felt like desperation. "We are dying," came the response, and with it, images that broke Lisa's heart. She saw cities of crystal and light going dark one by one. She saw these beautiful beings falling ill, their inner light fading until they collapsed. She saw entire worlds that had once been full of life becoming empty and silent. "A sickness spreads through our people," the being continued. "We have searched the galaxy for a cure, and our journey has brought us to your small blue world." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that have to do with me?" The answer came not in words, but in a feeling of hope mixed with guilt. These beings needed something from Earth, something from humans. They had been watching and studying, and they believed that humans might hold the key to saving their dying race. "We chose you because your mind is strong and curious," the being explained. "We need someone who can understand both our science and your own. Someone who can help us find a way forward." As Lisa processed this information, she became aware of other beings gathering around them. Not in a threatening way, but like people coming to see something rare and wonderful. She realized that to them, she was just as alien and fascinating as they were to her. One of the newcomers was clearly different from the others. This being was smaller, and its inner light was much dimmer, flickering like a candle in the wind. When it looked at Lisa, she felt an overwhelming sense of ancient wisdom and terrible sadness. "That is our queen," her first contact explained. "She is very old and very sick. Without help, she will not survive much longer. And when she dies, much of our knowledge and history will die with her." Lisa looked at the failing queen and felt a surge of emotion she didn't expect. These weren't invaders or conquerors. They were refugees, desperate and far from home, watching their loved ones fade away one by one. The queen moved closer, and when she looked into Lisa's eyes, the human scientist felt a connection deeper than anything she had ever experienced. In that moment, she understood that the future of an entire civilization might depend on what happened next. The adventure was just beginning, and Lisa was about to learn that some discoveries come with a price, that no one should have to pay. The queen moved closer to Lisa, and suddenly the entire room around them began to change. The walls started showing moving pictures, like the world's biggest movie screen. But these weren't just images. Lisa could feel the emotions and memories, as if she was actually living through them. She found herself standing in what looked like a city made entirely of light. Beautiful towers stretched up toward a purple sky, and beings like the ones on this ship moved through floating gardens that defied gravity. Children played games that involved creating patterns of light with their minds, laughing in musical tones that sounded like wind chimes. "This was our home world," the queen's voice whispered in Lisa's mind, filled with love and loss. "We called it Zephyria, the place where the first winds of creation touched the stars." Lisa watched in amazement as the scenes unfolded around her. These beings, who called themselves Zephyrians, weren't just advanced. They were artists and gardeners of the universe itself. She saw them traveling to dead planets and somehow bringing them back to life, creating oceans where there had been only rocks, growing forests in places where nothing had ever grown before. "We believed our purpose was to help life flourish wherever. We found it," the queen continued. "For millions of your Earth years, we traveled from star to star, helping young civilizations learn to live in harmony with their worlds." The images shifted, showing the Zephyrians arriving at planets where primitive species were struggling to survive. But instead of conquering or controlling, they would quietly help. They would clean poisoned waters, repair damaged atmospheres, and teach other beings how to heal their worlds without taking over. Lisa felt tears rolling down her cheeks as she watched these beautiful scenes. "You were like cosmic gardeners," she thought back to the Queen. "Yes," came the reply, warm with pride. "We learned that the greatest power in the universe isn't the ability to destroy, but the ability to create and nurture life." But then the images began to darken. Lisa saw the Zephyrians arriving at a world where the people were desperate and angry. Their planet was dying and they begged for help. The Zephyrians, as always, agreed to assist. "We should have been more careful." The Queen's mental voice grew heavy with regret. "But their need was so great, and we had never encountered a species that would try to harm those who came to help them." Lisa watched in horror as the story unfolded. The dying species had created something terrible, a weapon disguised as a gift. It looked like a beautiful crystal, similar to the technology the Zephyrians used, but inside it carried death. "They called it a token of gratitude," the Queen explained. "But it was a trap. They believed that if they could destroy us, they could steal our technology and save only themselves." The crystal contained a virus, but not like any disease Lisa had ever heard of. This virus attacked the very thing that made the Zephyrians special: their ability to channel and create the life, energy that flowed through their bodies. Lisa watched as the virus spread from Zephyrian to Zephyrian like a horrible chain reaction. Their beautiful inner light began to flicker and fade. Their cities went dark one by one. Entire worlds that had been brought back to life started dying again as the Zephyrians who maintained them fell sick. "The cruel irony," the Queen continued, her mental voice barely a whisper now, "was that their plan didn't even work. The virus destroyed our technology along with us. The planet they were trying to save died anyway, and they took our entire civilization with it." Lisa felt overwhelmed by the tragedy of it all. These beings had spent millions of years helping others, and their kindness had been repaid with betrayal and death. "How many of you are left?" Lisa asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. The images around them shifted to show the inside of the ship she was on. Lisa saw chambers filled with sleeping Zephyrians, but far too many of the sleeping pods were dark and empty. Of the billions who once called Zephyria home, perhaps 3,000 remain, the Queen replied. "This ship carries the last of our people, and even now the sickness continues to spread among us." Lisa could see it now when she looked around the room. Many of the Zephyrians moving through the space had dimmer lights flowing through their bodies. Some moved slowly, clearly struggling to stay upright. The beautiful patterns of light that had fascinated her earlier were actually symptoms, their bodies fighting a losing battle against the virus. "The sickness works slowly," the Queen explained, noticing Lisa's observations. "It doesn't destroy us quickly. Instead, it drains our life force bit by bit, over many years. We watch ourselves fade away, unable to stop it." Lisa looked at the Queen and realized that this ancient being was probably in the final stages of the disease. Her light was so dim it was barely visible, and she seemed to be using tremendous effort just to communicate. "How long do you have?" Lisa asked gently. "Days, perhaps weeks," came the reply. "And when I die, much of our accumulated knowledge will die with me. The memories of how to heal worlds, how to bring life to dead places, how to travel between the stars, all of it will be lost forever." The weight of what Lisa was hearing hit her like a physical blow. She was witnessing the end of a civilization that had spent millions of years making the universe a better place. These beings who had never hurt anyone were dying because they had trusted someone who betrayed them. "But why did you come to Earth?" Lisa asked. "What can we possibly do to help you?" The Queen's eyes seemed to brighten slightly, and for the first time, Lisa felt a spark of hope in the mental connection between them. "Your species is young, but you have something we lost long ago," the Queen replied. "You have genetic diversity, adaptability, and most importantly, your bodies produce certain proteins that our scientists believe might be able to fight the virus." Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. "You think humans might be immune to your sickness?" "Not immune," the Queen corrected, "but possibly compatible. Our research suggests that human genetic material might be able to help our bodies remember how to fight the disease." As the full implications of this began to sink in, Lisa realized that her abduction wasn't random. She had been chosen for a reason, and that reason might determine the fate of the last survivors of an ancient and noble civilization. The question was, what price would humanity have to pay to save the Zephyrians? And was Lisa prepared to make decisions that could affect the future of both species? Over the next few days, Lisa learned more about the Zephyrians than any human had ever known about another species. She walked through their ship, which was more like a floating city, and saw wonders that would have seemed impossible just a week ago. But with each amazing discovery came a growing sense of dread. The more she understood about their situation, the more she realized how desperate they truly were. The Zephyrians showed her their medical bay, where rows of their people lay in crystal pods, fighting the virus that was slowly draining their life away. Lisa watched their doctors, if that's what they could be called, working tirelessly to find a cure. But every treatment they tried only slowed the disease down a little bit. Nothing could stop it completely. "How long have you been searching for a cure?" Lisa asked one of their scientists, a being whose name translated roughly to Light Weaver. "We have been traveling for over 200 of your Earth years," Lightweaver replied through the mental connection they all shared. "We have visited 47 different worlds, studied hundreds of different forms of life, but nothing has worked." Lisa felt a chill run through her body. "And now you think humans might be the answer?" Lightweaver's emotions became complex, a mixture of hope and something that felt like guilt. "Your DNA is unlike anything we have encountered. Most species in the galaxy evolved in similar ways, but Earth developed in isolation. Your genetic structure has properties that might be able to teach our bodies how to fight the virus." That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She lay in the comfortable room they had given her, staring at the gently pulsing ceiling, trying to process everything she had learned. The Zephyrians had been nothing but kind to her. They had shown her incredible technology, shared their history, and treated her like an honored guest rather than a prisoner. But she was starting to understand that there was something they weren't telling her, something important. The next day, she asked to speak with the Queen again. When she entered the royal chamber, Lisa was shocked by how much weaker the ancient being had become in just a few days. The Queen's inner light was barely visible now, like a candle about to go out. "I need to know the whole truth," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice steady. "What exactly do you need from humans to create this cure?" The Queen's large eyes met Lisa's, and in that moment, Lisa felt the full weight of the old being's sorrow and desperation. "The cure requires genetic material from humans," the Queen replied slowly. "But not just a small sample. The process would require extraction of the complete genetic sequence." Lisa's heart began to race. "What does that mean exactly?" The images that flowed into Lisa's mind made her feel sick. She saw the extraction process, understood what it would involve, and realized why the Zephyrians had been so hesitant to explain it fully. "You're talking about taking someone's life," Lisa whispered. "We would not take it lightly," the Queen replied, her mental voice heavy with pain. "But yes, the process would be fatal to the human donor." Lisa sat down heavily, her legs feeling weak. "How many people would you need to create enough cure for all our people?" "Perhaps 1,000. Of your kind." The number hit Lisa like a physical blow. 1,000 people would have to die to save the Zephyrians. 1,000 families would lose mothers, fathers, children. 1,000 lives cut short. But there's more, the Queen continued, and Lisa felt her heart sink even further. We have studied your planet's population, and only certain genetic lines carry the compatibility we need. We estimate that perhaps 1 in every 100,000 humans has the right genetic markers. Lisa's mind raced as she did the math. If only 1 in 100,000 people had the right genetics and they needed 1,000 donors, they would have to test millions of people to find the right ones. You'd have to reveal yourselves to all of humanity, Lisa realized. There's no way to find that many people in secret. Yes, the Queen agreed. We would have to make contact with your governments, explain our situation, and ask for volunteers. Lisa could imagine how that would go. Panic, fear, governments fighting over what to do. Some people might volunteer, but others would see it as an invasion. Earth could tear itself apart over the decision. What if we said no? Lisa asked quietly. What if humanity refused to help? The Queen's emotions became even more complex. Lisa sensed love, regret, and a terrible kind of determination. There are some among my people who believe we should take what we need by force, the Queen admitted. They argue that our survival justifies any action. They say that 1,000 human lives is a small price to pay for saving an entire civilization. Lisa felt a cold fear grip her heart. And what do you think? I have lived for thousands of your years, the Queen replied. I have seen civilizations rise and fall, watched species make choices that defined who they truly were. If we save ourselves by becoming the very thing that destroyed us, beings who take life instead of nurturing it, then we will have lost something more important than our physical existence. The Queen paused, her light flickering dangerously low. But I am dying, Lisa. When I am gone, others will make decisions for our people. And they may not share my beliefs about the value of other species' lives. Lisa realized the horrible position she was in. She was probably the only human who knew about the Zephyrians' existence, and their queen was dying. Soon, more desperate. Zephyrians might decide that taking what they needed was better than asking permission. How long do I have to decide? Lisa asked. Days. Perhaps a week, the Queen replied. My death will trigger a council meeting, and if no solution has been found, they will likely vote to take action. That night, Lisa walked through the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars through the crystal walls. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, full of people who had no idea that the future of 2 entire species might depend on an impossible choice. She thought about her colleagues at the observatory, her family, her friends. None of them knew where she was or what she was facing. She thought about the 1,000 people who might have to die, and the 3,000 Zephyrians who would die if they didn't. How do you choose between 2 species? How do you decide which lives are more valuable? Lisa had been trained as a scientist, not as someone who made life and death decisions for entire civilizations. But as she stood there looking at the stars, Lisa began to realize that maybe the choice wasn't as impossible as it seemed. Maybe there was another way, something that both species hadn't thought of yet. The question was, could she figure it out before time ran out for everyone? Lisa spent the next 3 days barely sleeping, working frantically in the Zephyrians' advanced laboratory. She had convinced Lightweaver and several other scientists to let her study the virus that was destroying their people, if she was going. To find another solution, she needed to understand exactly what they were fighting. Using their incredible technology, Lisa could see things that no human scientist had ever seen before. She watched the virus at work, saw how it attacked the Zephyrians' unique bioelectric systems, and began to understand why their treatments weren't working. You've been trying to fight the virus directly, Lisa explained to Lightweaver on the 3rd day, her excitement growing as the pieces started to fit together. But what if the problem isn't the virus itself? What if the problem is that your bodies have forgotten how to adapt? Lightweaver's large eyes focused intently on Lisa. What do you mean? Lisa pulled up the genetic scans she had been studying. Look at this. Your species has been genetically stable for millions of years. You're all essentially identical, right? That's why you can share thoughts and energy so easily. Yes, Lightweaver agreed. Unity of form creates unity of spirit. But it also means you have no genetic diversity, Lisa continued. When a new disease appears, you have no natural variation to help some individuals resist it. Every Zephyrian reacts to the virus in exactly the same way. Lisa brought up human genetic data that she had somehow accessed through their systems. Humans are different. We're incredibly diverse genetically. When diseases hit us, some people get sick, some people die, but others survive because their genetics give them natural resistance. Lightweaver was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. You believe our uniformity has become our weakness. Exactly, Lisa said. And I think I know how to fix it without anyone having to die. That evening, Lisa requested one final meeting with the Queen. When she entered the royal chamber, she was heartbroken to see how far the ancient being had declined. The Queen could barely maintain physical form, appearing more like a ghost made of fading starlight than a living creature. Your Majesty, Lisa said softly, I think I've found another way. The Queen's consciousness touched Lisa's mind, weaker than a whisper. Tell me, young one. Lisa shared her discovery, showing the Queen what she had learned about genetic diversity and adaptation. We don't need to take genetic material from humans, she explained. We need to teach your people how to become genetically diverse again. How? The Queen asked. Partnership, Lisa replied. Instead of extracting DNA from humans, we combine it voluntarily. Humans and Zephyrians working together, sharing genetics in a way that creates new possibilities for both species. Lisa showed the Queen her calculations, her theories, her hope for how it could work. It would create hybrid beings, she explained. Part human, part Zephyrian. They would have the diversity needed to resist the virus, and they could share that resistance with others. The Queen was quiet for a very long time. Lisa could feel the ancient mind considering every aspect of what she was proposing, weighing the possibilities and the risks. It has never been attempted, the Queen finally said. The genetic combination of two such different species could be dangerous, even fatal. But it's voluntary, Lisa insisted. No one would be forced to participate. Humans who chose to help would do so knowing the risks. And it offers hope for both our species to survive and grow together. Lisa could feel other Zephyrians gathering outside the chamber. Word of her proposal was spreading through the ship, and she sensed a mixture of hope and fear from the assembled beings. There is something else, Lisa continued. Your people have incredible knowledge about healing planets, about creating life where there was none. Humanity needs that knowledge. Our planet is sick. Our climate is changing. Our oceans are dying. We could help each other. The Queen's light flickered, and, for a moment, Lisa thought she had lost her. But then the ancient being's consciousness reached out one more time. You would risk your own life for this experiment? The Queen asked. Lisa had been dreading this question, but she had already made her decision. Yes, I want to be the first. Volunteer. If it works, it could save both our species. If it doesn't, well, at least we'll know we tried something better than war or extinction. The Queen was quiet again, and Lisa could feel her making what might be the last important decision of her incredibly long life. Very well, the Queen said finally. We will try your way. What happened next was the most beautiful and terrifying moment of Lisa's life. The Queen, using the last of her strength, began to glow brighter than Lisa had ever seen her. Other Zephyrians entered the chamber, adding their energy to their dying ruler's final act. Lisa felt changes beginning in her own body. Not painful changes, but strange ones. Her vision became sharper, able to see colors that didn't exist in human sight. She could sense the emotions and thoughts of the Zephyrians around her more clearly. Most importantly, she could feel her body learning how to fight diseases it had never encountered before. The process took hours. When it was finished, Lisa looked at her hands and saw faint patterns of light flowing just beneath her skin. She was still human, but she was something more now, too. The Queen, her life force nearly spent, reached out with one translucent hand and touched Lisa's face. For the first time since Lisa had met her, the Queen spoke out loud, in perfect English. "Please, don't die," the Queen whispered, her voice like wind through crystal. "Our species need you to live, to bridge our worlds. Thank you for showing us that survival doesn't require conquest, but connection." With those words, the Queen's physical form began to dissolve, but her consciousness flowed into a beautiful crystal formation that would preserve her memories and wisdom forever. Lisa stood in the chamber, forever changed, knowing that she was now the bridge between two worlds. The genetic modifications in her body proved that the partnership could work. Over the following weeks, she would help establish contact between Earth and the surviving Zephyrians. Some humans would be afraid, but others would step forward to volunteer for the program. Together, the two species would work to heal not just the Zephyrian plague, but also the damage that humans had done to their own planet. The Queen's final gift had been trust. Trust that two very different species could choose cooperation over. Conflict, hope over fear, and life over death. Lisa looked out at the stars, knowing that her old life as a simple astronomer was over. Her new life as a bridge between worlds was just beginning. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, both humans and Zephyrians would have a chance to write a better story together. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in years, it was also full of hope.